Typical Don scene. He's got pallets of stuff, so I didn't know if we were looking left or right. He points to this one on the left, and it's a bunch of vintage tin work. Looks like it's an old Ford or something. The thing behind the pile of stuff is a C-cab. It's a really early Ford truck. It's really old, and I think it's cool. So this thing is like 92, 95 years old,
Yes.
something like that? Wow. This thing doesn't even have rust, man.
The cab is basically really straight, no rust, has a lot of potential. As old as it is, it's in pretty darn good shape. I've got the frame for it, got some of the fenders.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is what started this whole idea.
This whole thing started with Don finding this manual hand crank. It's a tow truck winch. It's dated like 1930 or something.
Well, that winch has been sitting in storage for 33, 34 years now. I always thought it'd be really cool to have a vintage tow truck, basically to move stuff around here on the compound. I don't have a boom for it, so maybe that's where your magic can come in, is putting this stuff together.
Don's missing everything mechanical. He's got a mechanical hand crank winch. He just needs everything else.
Oh, heck, that truck's missing a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't have a motor, it doesn't have a transmission, it doesn't have a drive shaft, it doesn't have front and rear suspension. I mean, it doesn't have a steering column. It is absolutely a basket case of parts with a whole bunch of parts missing.
If we could find a rolling chassis, then it's like just mount this body on there and, you know, do it kind of hot rod style. Don and I have been working together for such a long time. He's thinking, hey, anything's possible. And it really is, because I know that Don's got the parts. Somewhere in this property, he has everything we need to make this happen. Don's got this 1-ton dually just sitting there. The way I see it is this is a huge upgrade from 1919. This is like 1969, you know, it's like way more developed. This truck is gonna drive like Henry Ford never imagined.
But I think it's a little bit, the cab's too small for this.
I think this could work, man. I don't see why not. I mean, if we have to cut that cab or do something to this frame, it doesn't matter back here, it's a utility bed. It's just that that nose of the cab is so narrow in the front, we might have to do something.
And the frame looks straight. It doesn't look like it's been tweaked or...
I think it's a good start, man. Get this cab out of the way and let's get it inside and lay it out.
Well, when we first started mocking it up, it just didn't look right.
It just looks like it's got a little thing stuck on the back.
It does. Yeah, standing at this angle, it does. So Ian and I looked at each other and go, this isn't gonna get it. We need to come up with something else.
Like if we did use these 4 members and we went back to the winch.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
I like how the line comes down into the winch. It looks like it's one piece.
Yes.
Maybe we opened this up and created, you know, like that big crane shape. The whole deal is how this truck looks as a whole. And then finally, after moving the pieces around, you just know when you hit the sweet spot. I think we should go with that.
I think this is it.
Now that we got this thing mocked up, I'm ready to move on, really get started on this truck. Once Don and I got the basic structure of the boom figured out, it's time to bring it to life. I'm just building this perimeter frame around the base that's gonna be like a subframe that anchors that winch and also holds the uprights. Got a whole bunch of this C-channel from Industrial Metal Supply. It's 4" by 1.5. It's a 3/16 wall. I'm gonna build each side flat on the table, and I'll stand them up and then tilt them in and join them at the top. This boom needs to be strong, but it's never gonna pick up really heavy stuff. Because it's a hand crank winch with a pulley, it's got a weight limit. The end result will be that this will be a great rig for Don to use around the yard, around the compound. So the fit up here is pretty loose because I'm seeing like a big 1/4" plate coming out and making a nice gradual arc so that the hook is a little bit further out from the back of the truck. Once I got the boom structure on the truck, it's all about tying in the hand crank. I know I'm gonna have to build something off the front of this. I really like the idea of keeping this rustic old angle iron frame. It would be easy to just unbolt the winch and put it on something fresh, but the whole look of the truck is like old-fashioned. I'll just build a little discreet brace underneath to bolt it to, so it'll be just presenting, it'll be out in the open. And then I'll put a cross member under here that'll support the front of that. Even though we're basing this structure on what Don and I mocked up, I still am trying to bring some kind of a design element into it. The winch looks good there. The last thing for me to do is just mock up some kind of an end cap. All the tow trucks we're looking at seem to have this detail at the end where the cable came over and then had a pulley that kind of drooped down. So I'll make an oversized one of these cardboard deals. The big issue I'm having is this negative space with the plate on top. The fix may be to truss it out with some 3/16 flat bar on the outside of this whole thing. Like, come off of that plate and down, and then back, and then back. Once the structure of the boom was in place, I'm just thinking about designs that can crisscross this pattern. It's a pretty weird triangular shape, so I'm just laying out tape in random directions just to get an idea of how the space will be filled. I'm not really sold on this truss idea. I put in 3 cross pieces and felt like it was gonna work. I kept adding to it and it just got out of control. I wanted Don to come in and check it out, just see what he thought.
Wow. That's looking good, Ian.
I'm getting carried away, man.
Got the back hacked off. Yeah.
The problem I'm having is with this tape.
It's a little busy, isn't it?
Act as if that isn't there for now.
Okay. Ian had put a bunch of tape on the structure that we were doing.
The whole reason I was getting carried away with this tape was I had a couple pieces of flat bar, and I love the fact that if we used that big 1/4-inch plate you have and put it on the outside and create some kind of a truss structure over the top of this, so it's really dimensional.
I think on that strapping, it was just gonna be way too busy.
I think the way that I build things is just understanding that I don't know what's best. I'm just leaving it open to happen.
But I really like this shape, how it's taking.
I thought by turning the C channels backwards like that, showing them, it just made it look a little more old-fashioned.
I think you're right. And that's what we want to go with, the older look.
Well, again, with the trussing, maybe we leave it out. I thought it would be really cool to, make it very fancy. I was really trying to make something out of this boom. I was going for the Eiffel Tower, and Don just wanted something way simpler.
I think you nailed it like this. This will work absolutely great like this. I thought he might get a little too carried away on it. It's hard to keep up with Ian. He moves so fast, but I like it the way it is.
There's a ton of different design elements needed to bring this thing together. My process is to stay open to new ideas, and that's just how I work. I'm not sure Don's on the same page. I'm just gonna keep working through this, and Don's gonna go grab more parts. You can see here how this is spreading out so wide, so the wheel will fit inside here. Perfect. The cable comes through into the wheel, bolt passes right through here, and the other wheel will be out here. But I'll clamp this in after I get this stuff welded up. The triangle shape of this boom was so irregular in the way that the main support beams came together, I felt that a top cap would just simplify the whole deal. Coming up with the design for this top cap, I thought it was just gonna have one pulley. But I realized that the look of it required 2. It seemed like the cable was going to be rubbing on the framework, so by putting 2 pulleys, it allowed it to come up over the top and then out of the back just a little more smoothly. Seeing the boom and the winch on the truck is awesome. It's really the start of what this vintage truck should look like. We could replace this 70s styled steering wheel with something more period correct later. So these are the fenders. I made a couple marks, set it up. I measured these fenders up front to rear. The clearances are cool. They're even, they're in place. I'm gonna tack them on. The next challenge is getting these running boards in place. They need a pretty heavy support structure that has to tie into the frame. I like these running boards. It's a really great running board. I'm not disputing that. My concern is the transition from the radius to the front fender detail. So I think I'm gonna end up building off of the running board instead of cutting it back. Yo!
Brought you some more material.
Don shows up with more random scraps. Here he is wheeling in some old diamond plate. Well, you're right on time, man.
Yeah, well, perfect.
Check out what I got.
Hey, those are looking slick. Yeah, it's so cool seeing this old stuff. It's been in stock up against that house for a long time.
Various states of pileage.
Well, if I wasn't such a pack rat, I wouldn't have all this stuff. Now, the wife thinks I'm out of my mind, but...
Well, she's not the only one.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, I'm a hoarder. Definitely, I collect stuff, I hoard stuff. I don't get rid of anything unless the wife has some say to it, but having Ian to be able to utilize most of this stuff has just been absolutely great. And it might work out for a parade, too.
Don's really happy with the progress on this truck. Still a lot more to do, but I think we're on the same page.
It sure worked out
So
good,
it's the
didn't it?
69 Chevy steering column. I just shortened it up. We started talking about the rear of the truck. What are you thinking about this rear bumper? Do you have any material or like any guesstimate of what you want to see here? Don said he's got a great bumper, and I think this diamond plate might be just what I need. The big missing piece in this whole equation is this area here. Once again, Don's got the parts. We found some side pans from a Model A. See the way it worked on the Model A. Came down below the running board, and then this angle came up into the fender. We run into the same issue with the running board in that it's short coming into the bed. To me, it's gonna be better to make this part. We're trying to tie in the fender, the running board, and the cab. It's just gonna look better if it's scratch built. First thing is to just pull this around. So it's about 90 degrees. See, the sheet metal brake makes a really hard angle. This makes a nice mellow angle. So that was like, you saw 2 seconds of pulling, but it stretched the metal into this really rigid compound curve. It's like a puffed shape. I'm all about trying to just find stuff and modify it so I can use it, but sometimes there's just no other alternative. And that's really where your craftsmanship comes from, is when you can just build from scratch. But the curve indexes just below the body and comes down to the running board. So now I gotta trim this top side to fit roughly, and then I'll measure out my flange to cover those holes, turn it back under like a hem edge, tack welder in. The 20 gauge sheet being super flimsy, you can see by putting these bends in it, it's very strong now, and that's cool. This side panel's gonna work. The real hard part is getting the running board to fit up with the front fender. So that's gonna be a pretty big deal to make that work, fabrication-wise. This truck coming together, we gotta get started on the engine work. Don says he's got a small block Chevy, but of course it's buried out in the yard somewhere, and we gotta go get it. Out here in Don's back 40, he's got stuff piled so deep, he had to call in the big crane to get it out. Don's treasure's down there. So instead of moving all these cars and everything, we're just gonna move the racks. Finally, we're out of the shop, you know? Get away from the truck for a minute. This is a really intense build because it's all business. This engine was looking pretty rough. Don's claiming that this is the buried treasure, and I'll tell you, it was buried. Take her up.
This engine that I've got is a good engine. It's a small block Chevy. I've probably had it about maybe 13, 14 years.
I tell you, Don, this is looking good, man. This is like new old stock. This is a fresh engine. If ever I've seen fresh stuff, this is it. This is great. See you later. So to get out and swing around on the crane for a while, yeah, it helps clear the head.
I'm gonna clean this engine up a little bit, pull off all the unnecessary parts, and ship it back over to Ian, because I know he's got a lot of work to do on it.
We got a brand new transmission from Monster, so it's really like 90% there. This piece is really subtle. It's a small part, but if I don't get it right, it's gonna be totally noticeable. I'm using the detail on the end of the fender, which is a rod shape, and I'm just gonna make a gradual S-curve down into the bottom of the running board and sheet it. You know, it doesn't belong that way, but at least it's gonna match. You'd never see that anywhere else. You really don't grow unless you're, challenged. There's gotta be some pain there, like working out, So even though I'm not able to go out and just do my funky dance, it's like a workout. This thing is just pushing my skills to make something happen. Yeah, to try to create this weird, it's almost like a horn, like a bullhorn, right? A section of that, like a steer horn. And to create that really tight curve in one piece of metal would require a huge amount of stretching. So I'm gonna shrink the two insides of each curve and they'll lap over. This is the side profile of the wheel arch going down into the fender. And that's why I chose this method to put it together, because at least it draws a flowing line. The whole idea here is the next piece is gonna come off of this existing fender and just wrap right over it. So there'll be a seam about a ½ inch in. That's why I just curled that edge pretty tight. I've come a long way with this truck, but to me it's all about the finishing details. If you can pull it off convincing, then it's a real winner. This rod, you can see, comes straight through. It drops down and into the bottom of the running board. And this little flange here just is what it is. It disappears and goes right under. I'm really happy with this. It's one of the main issues I needed to make work, and I think it came out fine.
The way he molded it in and blended it in, I mean, it just looks like it came from the factory.
All right, to start off the front end, I thought the radiator and grill shell would be the best place, start front row and center. We're on to the more enjoyable part of it, which is accessorizing. Don had a couple sections of a Model A rear bumper, so I shot him an idea of using those on the front of this chassis. Our front end design has two side pieces of existing Model A bumpers, so we're ending up with a space in the middle to fill. So Don had these stakes from the garden. Don had these garden stakes. I don't know what he was thinking, but, and I'm always open to nuance, but I don't know if this tent stake is really the right choice. Sometimes when stuff doesn't look right, it just leads you to a better idea. I think we're gonna have to come up with some kind of a center element that just stands on its own, and then it has these two little side flaps. The rear bumper's a big tube, so this obviously is gonna be a mismatch. It's a work truck, so a tube bumper's appropriate in the back. I'm thinking like some kind of a utility front bumper, like you'd see on a work truck, a fire truck or something. I'm gonna cut off the front section of the frame, and I have an idea of a way to make this work. I had this super old school toolbox. It's definitely period correct. So maybe I'm just gonna make a little tray that I'll just hold the toolbox there. That's something a tow truck would have, This toolbox came from the guy that taught me almost everything I initially learned with sheet metal work. I was working in roofing in New York City, making gutters, all kinds of decorative copper elements, and this was the dude's toolbox. It's legit. I like little details like this. It gives the project cool elements that have their own story. I got the headlights mounted on their stands. And it's cool too because it really does have a Model A feel. You know, looking at it from here, if you know the front fenders aren't Model A. But the grille, the placement of the headlights, the style of the headlights, and the curved fenders and running board, it's looks a little bit more updated than your 1923 C cab. For the windshield frame, Don had this really neat oval tube. I don't know what it's from, but I think it'll serve our purpose perfectly. On this cab, I have pictures I took from the internet, and it looks like the windshield is about this tall, but it just sits up inside. It's the weirdest thing, because you can see the roof is way wider than the windshield. They were never intended to match. It was more like an air deflect, or it was a wind shield. Just shielded you from the wind, and that's where the term came from. Well, I'm gonna TIG weld all this because it's gonna make a nice little weld bead. Hopefully I won't have to sand or do any detail work to this. It'll just be a nice stainless steel TIG weld. Looks like an old truck. So Don is gonna get the paint and all the final details on this project together. It's almost wrapped. I can't wait to see it finished.
Ian nailed this thing. It's unbelievable. The stuff that I gave him to work with, he knocked it out of the park. I mean, look at that truck. It is just absolutely beautiful.
This one was really getting to me. The mismatch of parts was bothering me to no end.
There's stuff from the 40s, there's stuff from the 30s, there's stuff from the 20s, and then the drivetrain and frame is from the 60s.
The whole challenge here was using the parts that Don wanted. The hand crank was really the impetus behind the whole thing. The truck was styled around that era hand crank, so that's my favorite part of the rig, and really without it, it wouldn't have been this truck at all. It went from a pile of parts on a pallet to an operating tow truck.
Ian had built Patty this electric dune buggy that she can drive around the compound here. She drove it until the batteries were dead, and then we went and picked her up. We put a hook on it and towed it back for her.
The whole thing here was getting Don his fantasy truck. I'm charged up, and Don is stoked. Don added all the final details to really finish out this project. The wooden bed and that giant old school hook really give it that vintage feel.
Working with Ian on this project really opened my mind to a lot of things, and this project came out killer. I mean, it came out way better than I expected it.
Don's totally into this truck. He's got a huge stash of projects, and the possibilities are endless.